Jim, are you with us?
I'm here, Andrew.
I'm gonna, should I drag this on a little longer, Jim, so you're late?
I think we're good now. So, first of all, it's great to see everybody. I just had to step away from a board meeting. I wanted to come on for the first few minutes to say hi and just kick off the first topic today, which is happy birthday message to SaaS Alerts. If some of those that may have seen my LinkedIn post this week, we turned 3 years old this week. We had 3 years ago at this time, we had 0 paying MSPs. Today, we have over 900. And that has a lot to do with the people on this call. And I'm not just talking about SaaS Alerts employees. I'm talking about this community. So I just wanted to say thank you for helping us get to this milestone. And like I said in my post, the most exciting part about where we're at and everything that we've done is that we're just getting started.
Congrats. That's big news. Congrats to the SaaS Alerts team and awesome, all the great stuff you brought to the to this ecosystem and channel.
Great. So I'm gonna jump back to that board meeting. Have a great call. Check you guys later. Bye.
Hey, Jim.
All right. Miss Michelle, are you with us?
I am.
All right. Should I stop sharing and let you share?
Sure, yeah, you could do that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I just have a couple things today. I have, we came out with a guide. It's the ultimate guide to SaaS security, and I want to share it with you guys. It's sort of a comprehensive, it's a thick book. It's what, Amy, it's like 58 pages long. But it has, best practices, threats you should be monitoring for, what to do before and after a breach occurs, and there's a checklist at the end. So I did want to share that with you. I can share the link. I don't know if you guys want to download it that way, but I can also show you what it's like. Like I said, it's a big document. I don't want to weight things down.
Ooh, nice look.
Did you open it?
Yeah.
Okay. Your fat has way too many tabs open. I had everything ready to go, and then
Malware site, just so you know, Andy.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's HubSpot. No.
That would have been my
I would
first
not do that
response.
to you. We're sharing.
Good work, guys.
Well, Andy can see it.
Do you want me to share my screen?
I found it. Yeah, like I said, there's just too many things open. Okay, so it looks like this. I clicked on the link, so that's proof that that's what it looks like.
Looks really good, Michelle.
Thank you. It was a long time coming. We had a lot of help. It was a real team effort.
Can you slow down, go to the beginning just to see where it's staged?
Maybe the table of contents, Michelle. It's a good place. So you can see all the things that are included.
Big enough?
A little bigger.
A little bigger? Okay. So it's got a little introduction to SaaS security, why you need to cover your SaaS, evolution of SaaS application threats and risks, best practices, what to look for in a SaaS security tool, left of boom, right of boom, how to sell your SaaS security services, employee awareness and training, continuous improvement and adaptation. And then we talk about some partner success stories. Some of you may be featured in there. And
some of you are featured in there.
I know. Well, I want them to look anyway. And then an appendix with the checklist.
Michelle, question. If I'm some of the partners on the call, by the way, this is awesome. Like, this is great work. If I'm one of the partners on the call, could this be broken out into like blog sets? Like, in other words, I don't want to, if I wanted to hand this to a customer, I don't want them to have how to sell SaaS, but there's so much of this is applicable as far as thought leadership that they could turn into blogs or.
Please.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys want to use the content.
Yeah.
Could we have it in a form other than PDF?
What form would you like it in, Andy?
A Word document, a Google document.
That one could be tough. Maybe the raw copy, potentially the raw copy document that we were working off of. Just note that it's very, very raw and there's a
Do
lot
you
of
have
like writer's
Canva
notes and
or
stuff in there.
InDesign?
I have, yeah, this was done in InDesign, so I do
So
have.
send a InDesign will work.
Okay.
But it's excellent. I mean, there's certain pieces of this, like I'm thinking even where you could take it like into, you know, people can get, I'm saying this collectively to everybody on the call, like get creative. Like you could go, hey,
This is awesome.
you could turn this into a webinar, a lunch and learn, and then you could have a part two of, okay, at the end, who has an incident response plan? This is to both your customers and prospects who has an incident response plan. Now we'll write a boom. Great. Would you like to come back? And we're going to actually do a tabletop and walk them through that. And kind of now you're building, a lead machine for your organization. So,
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is really good, especially when we break it up into smaller chunks that's digestible.
Yeah.
That's the big thing here. This is a full main 10-course meal. Oh wow, there's 10 topics.
We also tried, Andy, to aim the technical level more at your customers than you guys.
Totally get you. Yeah.
It starts out with the real basics and takes people through kind of the history of how it got here. And then, moves on from there. So it's hopefully accessible for the relatively uninitiated.
That is available now. Like I said, I just sent you the link.
If only Microsoft was using SaaS Alerts, they'd know when their cybersecurity team and legal team were getting hacked.
If only.
We'll
If
be
only.
talking about that in a little bit.
All right.
Right. And then the other thing I had is just a reminder that office hours will be happening on Tuesday. Next week is the week that it happens. And Ben said they're going to be discussing open source intelligence and what does your IP address say about you? So.
Do we have any guests coming on for OSINT? Do you want one?
I don't know. I will talk to Ben. I know he's at an event today, but I will ask him.
Okay. Cool. All right. Mr. Leron, are you with us?
I am.
All right. Floor is yours, sir.
Sure. So I wanted to just give a quick update on AppWizard. We're very happy to announce that the first AppWizard beta product is going to be available for beta tomorrow, and that product is going to be Okta. So if you are using Okta and would like the opportunity to potentially monetize that perhaps with your customers, please reach out to your account manager and tell them that you want to join the Okta beta. I do want to note that it is a beta. It is the first AppWizard product, and we are very much looking for your feedback in order to make the data that we present from Okta as useful for you as possible. So I'm going to go through and name the 6 events. Now, when we launched AppWizard, we said we'd give you auth success events, but since we took a little bit longer with this, and we do kind of anticipate that the first few of these are going to take a little bit longer, but the 6 events that we'll be launching with are authentication success, authentication failure, OAuth access for foreign application, user locked out, new user added, and password reset. So that's what you're going to be getting with the initial Okta beta. That's it.
Awesome. Questions, comments, and then Leron, what's in the queue from here? And is there anything that you guys are also working on?
Yeah, I mean, we're continuing to do a lot of things in the background, kind of quality of life data pipeline improvements, but we did want to get this product out to the market as quickly as possible. You guys may have heard, right? Progress over perfection is one of our core values. And so getting this out was very important. In the queue right now after Okta is going to be Duo. That's going to be the next one that comes out. And then we're also going to be listening for our community to tell us what events, in addition to the 6 that I named, are going to be coming, but it is very much part of the plan to have more events come out in due course.
Really cool stuff. And what's the interactivity about, you know, with people submitting stuff? Is it still, are you still seeing people saying, hey, can you monitor X? Can you monitor Y?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing a lot of those requests kind of coming in, but what kind of initially happened was we had 2 or 3 years worth of wish list items that our account managers had to go in and kind of load in. And on a monthly basis, we have an internal review where we go through that list and we decide what comes next. But certainly the types of products that we're getting are probably going to be the ones that people have asked for the most over the past few years. And then as new products come out and new requests come in, we're kind of evaluating those on a case-by-case basis.
Got it. Yeah, Andy.
I have a question about their third-party app piece. Do you see this not only for authentication validation, but for quality of service? For example, am aware of a company that provides nationwide coverage that had been ransomed. It hasn't made the news yet, but their customers have been down for almost 2.5 weeks, and they have another 4 or 5 days to go. Having the ability to identify potential applications that are and score them would be really powerful with the third-party app. Hey, they've got their backups. We can see these the auth tokens that they're doing two-factor. All those pieces that help secure a cloud application. I think this would be amazing for SaaS Alerts to evolve into.
So, question: when you say that the app is down, do you mean
Yeah.
like a big application like your bank or something is
I'm
down
saying
with these guys?
they have employee hours, they have appointment details, as well as their customer list. It's all in this single app, and it's completely down for the last 2 weeks. And it's I'll just say it's for home care nationwide. It's just one of them, and it's a quote HIPAA compliant app. So
That
it's
is interesting. I'm going to
yeah.
reach out to you offline,
All right.
Andy, to
Thanks.
discuss this.
So
Yeah.
Andy, are you thinking of like there's a number of services like that are out there already
Yes.
that just go basically throw a Google search is this app up or down or a status report? There's a bunch of those that exist already. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
No. I'm thinking about when I go to a customer and they say, "Hey, we use the cloud. Why do I need your services?" Or why is SaaS Alert so important? I can say to them, how do you know the SaaS customer is backing up your data, that's has a good ransomware, has a security protocol that means your data will be available to you? The only thing I can help with them right now is an incident response plan around what to do when you don't have your data.
Interesting. So there is something that we could certainly help you with, and I'll make this offer to Andy, but obviously anyone else on the call. We do vendor assessments of our own vendors when we bring on a new vendor. I think you guys all know that SaaS Alerts sort of eats our own dog food in the sense that we are a virtual organization. We are 100% SaaS. We don't have a single enterprise installed, traditional app anywhere. So we do vendor assessments on all of the products that we use. I'm happy to share with you what those vendor assessment questionnaires look like, so that that's
Double
something
thumbs up.
you can offer to your customer and say, if you're gonna take on NetSuite, like we all know that NetSuite does what it does, right? The big company, same thing with Salesforce. We know they're going to pass a vendor assessment, but from a compliance standpoint, it's still a checkbox that you have to click off, right? So I'll ask our compliance officer to share maybe we'll have Michelle package it up in such a way that you guys can use it and rebrand it and that kind of thing.
I'm going to tell you, this would be great to be able to ask customers about the choices they have, right? The made and those that they're about to make.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question to ask a small business customer that you're prospecting. Hey, do you guys do vendor assessments for your SaaS apps?
Yeah.
And most of them are going to come back and say no. And then you have an opportunity for a discussion on why it's important.
Yeah. Vendor assessments, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chip, it looks like there's some others in the chat who would like that as well. So I agree. Let's package it up and make it brandable, and we'll make it available to everyone on the call and then add it to our channel program PRM so that all of our partners can download it.
Yeah, since while we're talking about sending out assets and stuff, we do have the cyber defense matrix that I made prettier. I have it. I just want to make sure it's accurate because I did add those dollar signs. So
You-
once that's good to go, I'll send that out to.
Michelle, if you'd like, I've got a decent relationship with Sunil.
Mhm.
You can, if you want, send it to me
Oh,
and
I did. I sent that to you right. Well, it was probably about a half hour before the call, so you should have it if you want to check it out.
okay, and I'll position it to him that we're looking at it through the lens of M365. Is that correct?
I think so. Ben, are you on the call?
No, he's in a
He's
meeting.
in a minute.
So
Okay.
I'll position it
Nationals.
to him and get his take.
Okay.
All
By the way,
right.
it'd be great to apply this to Google and to Salesforce and to our MSP tools as well, right? To have this kind of have a layering to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, go ahead, Leon.
Yeah, no, Anne had her hand
Yeah,
raised.
I was going to say, Anne, thank you for your patience.
Oh, thanks. I actually, yeah, definitely interested in the vendor assessment. I think that's really great. It's a great conversation to have with clients. And just jumping back to the previous topic with that document, which I think looks great. You said we could use it any way we want. Do you have any ground rules about just like referencing you, or what? Can you just clarify how you think we can or should use it?
I would always like for SaaS Alerts to be referenced just because we always want to expand our brand awareness. But in reality, if you guys can use it to help grow your business and help, educate your customers, then use it however you see fit. If it's applicable to, mention SaaS Alerts as an author, or as a source, great. If it's like weird and wonky for you to do it based on the use case, I'm okay if you omit that from time to time.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I want to be respectful and reference it the way you want it. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Just make sure, and if it creeps into a PhD dissertation, you have footnote it properly, or you're going to get, in all kinds of trouble.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll watch out.
All right. Anyone else questions or comments? Going down the line here. Taking a quick peek. I think we're up to speed. All right, Chip, I'm going to bring back the PowerPoint to just kind of lead a discussion. We've got Mr. Corey with us. Corey, feel free to chime in here. I don't know if I saw you didn't see your video on, but if you're with us, Corey, love for your thoughts on this as well. So let's just start off with the Microsoft. First off, are you guys aware of this most recent security incident that Microsoft had, so much so that they had to actually disclose it in their SEC filings? Anybody aware of this? Yes, no?
Yeah.
I'm aware that it happened at Friday at 4:59 p.m., so no one would see it.
You mean the announcement, not the event?
Yes,
The
exactly. No,
Yeah.
not the breach. That was on the 13th, but yeah.
Yeah, it happened a while ago, but
12th, on January 12th, which is not that long ago, I don't think.
yeah, it looks like, though, Chip, from Microsoft's, from when you go into their actual documentation. So I wanted to put both.
Yep.
So you have the announce, when the trade magazines or whatever, the media picks it up right early January or mid-January. And I'll show this to you guys as well. I'll put the links in, but this comes from the actual Microsoft release. I think, Chip, to me, what's fascinating about this, aside from it being who compromised SolarWinds, which obviously Microsoft was heavily involved with, APT 29, aka Cozy Bear, and then the Microsoft refers to them as Midnight Blizzard.
Right.
But it's really Russia at the end of the day. This is, I don't think it's a GRU. It's another division of the Russian government at work here. Noted, Chip, I think is, again, tried and true, right? It's a password spread. And arguably, I got to believe I can't think of an organization other than Google that probably has the security budget Microsoft does. You know, we're able to gain a foothold through a password spray and then elevate privileges and then go through. What was interesting about this, it dug more so around really trying to understand what Microsoft was talking about when it came to threat actors, or what information did they have on them.
Yeah, specifically, Midnight Blizzard was
Right.
scouring Microsoft's, you know, senior executive and security team emails looking for mentions of Midnight Blizzard. You know,
Right.
they didn't exfiltrate any data. They were just wanting to do some intelligence and find out, I don't know, maybe this was them trying to figure out if they were on the radar, how big a fish they were. Who knows? But there's a couple things that really jump out here for me. The first is, as you said, Andrew, in their explanation, they say beginning in late November of 2023. So that's in paragraph 2, which you have highlighted here. But the very opening statement in Microsoft's write-up is that their security team detected a nation-state attack on January 12th, 2024. So it's that time window, you know, from late November till January 12th, that it took Microsoft that long to observe this attack. Like, I find that kind of stunning myself. The password spray component of this is mind-boggling. I mean, the kind of explanation for that on the back end is that the initial accounts that were compromised were from an older test tenant that wasn't actively in use, but that test tenant was configured in such a way that its permissions allowed them to traverse inside Microsoft's own corporate email network, not really even elevate permissions. I don't think, at least that's not the way I interpreted their write-up. This test tenant had permissions to some of these folks, I think on the security and the executive side, that were just left open. So they were able to open other people's mailboxes and then go rooting through, downloading attachments and forwarding emails. So, you know, just kind of stunning. And I think for us as a community, in the past year, we focused a lot on token theft, right? Like, that's been the thing. There's been so many of them. It seems like that's like a more sophisticated and successful attack. I think on our platform, password spray attacks and brute force attacks, which we definitely pick up, are very often shunted down and ignored because they're so noisy, right? That when that's going on with a tenant, everybody's getting blasted in that tenant in a password spray attack. They're going after every account that they can, and it creates a lot of noise. And I know that as a community, we're constantly engaged in this tug of war. What's the right signal to noise ratio? This just gives an opportunity. I know we have a number of partners that use respond rules around password spray attacks and brute force attacks, so that they don't have to deal with the noise in a general setting, but they can, you know, see when those are ratcheted up and then react to them accordingly. So it sounds like you got something there to add.
Yeah, Chip, and I'm gonna maybe ask this to Corey. It would seem, Corey, you know, like, is it possible either A, someone on the inside tips somebody off? Because, you know, you would think if this was being heavily monitored as a legacy system, which clearly it wasn't, that, you know, they probably wouldn't have used a password spray attack. So, like, does any of your, like, you know, hair go up on your back of your head about the technique and tactics that were used and how long it would take? Like, almost like APT 29 had to know, almost like an inside, like they had to know something about the way that why they would compromise in that fashion. Does that make any sense?
So I'm on the opposite side. I'm not shocked. I'm disappointed, but not surprised by any means. By any means. And if you look at the statement, you know, I've seen the statement a little bit different in different sites, but the statement is very PR related. They're using very key words like legacy non-production, test. They're using the words, you know, account permissions to a very small percentage. Oh, it was just some high-level execs in the security team. You know, it's just legal, our legal team, but it's a very small percentage. So very PR related, very kind of trying to push it under the rug style. When they say legacy non-production, I wonder if this is specifically SaaS-based or if it's an on-prem. password sprays are very easy to detect, right?
But that's my point, Corey. Like,
And then when you detect these things, are we talking about a password spray, or is this a potential credential stuffing, right? Where maybe one of the security guys or one of the execs, one of the admins doesn't have good password security. Maybe he's using the same password in corporate environment as he's using on Facebook or somewhere else that might have gotten hacked, right? I don't think we have the whole story. I think this is very easily detectable, and they're just being very PR and not letting us know how much of an extent this was. But I highly doubt Microsoft themselves has good monitoring behind what they're doing.
and
Well, I mean, it's an amazing statement. I think if you read between the lines, they don't really tell us the how, Corey. I agree with you, but they literally use, and I'm looking at Microsoft's own blog post on this, senior leadership team and employees in our cybersecurity, legal, and other functions. Like, it couldn't get any more targeted.
That's the worst you can get, but it's a small percentage,
exactly.
Chip. It's a small percentage, just probably the most important people that have the most
I was
access.
going to say, who know everything. It's just those guys, but only a few. Which again, a small percentage of what, their 300,000 employee workforce.
And let's be real, right? As we all know, if an APT is actively targeting you with enough time, they're going to get in.
Right.
And so now you have to rely less on your prevention and more on your detection mechanisms to plug holes as they start finding more and more, right? With all of the 0-day vulnerabilities, obviously it's affecting Microsoft as well. So my concern with Microsoft, but again, not surprised, is their monitoring behind their own system is far less than what they're expecting all of their customers to have.
Really, really interesting. Andy, did you have a question about this?
I was just going to type up two things. One, how would SaaS Alerts unify if it was used outside of to solve or help remediate or discover this type of breach starting? I think it would. Intune doesn't provide this way. So I'm trying to say, guys, here's one aspect of this that I think we're missing, and that is Unify is an incredibly powerful attribute to add to cybersecurity within your customer base, because I think this would have caught that.
Absolutely. We have lots of partners, Andy, that use Unify in conjunction in built into respond rules as really the tuning fork, the tuning mechanism to look at. I'm not worried about this login that seems a little odd because it's coming from a known device.
Yep.
I am worried about it if it's coming from an unknown device or a new device that's registered, and that absolutely is a very effective way of identifying that compromised account and not taking 2.5 months in order to reach that identification point. And I want to highlight, this isn't, I know I harp on this pretty frequently, but it's really important to explain to customers, especially in a prospecting mode, that instant that an account is compromised, that somebody gets in, there's no tool out there that can tell you with 100% veracity that, okay, the account got compromised right at this moment. It's the behavior that surrounds it, Unify being one of the components of that. But what makes Respond so effective as a tool, and we've just calculated out the number of compromised accounts that Respond blocked in 2023. I'm not going to announce that yet, but it's a big number, in the many thousands. And what makes it so effective is that it does it so much faster than the traditional approach of a security team, of a security operations center, of threat hunters, of waiting for an end user to say, hey, wait a minute, there's something weird with my mailbox. It just gets to that moment so much more quickly. And it's acceptable to have a small percentage of false positives there. At least you're taking the step to secure something before, in this case, email attachments and emails exfiltrated directly out of 3 of Microsoft's most sensitive departments.
I just wanted to add one more thing. And Moab is something I don't know if you're going to talk about today, but the fact that all this data is out there for credentials and previous passwords, I think that even speaks to this further, that these could have been a result of a previous hack, someone reusing a password from years ago, right? Or that it was left unattended. And that's why SaaS Alerts with Unify, I think, is huge.
Yeah. Well, Chip, one other thing that stands out to me is, number one, if you look at where it says beginning late November, right? I'm laughing at Corey because of the PR speak here. But what I think is important for us as MSPs to take away from that is, what's late November typically? Right around that area.
Thanksgiving, it's holiday time. No one's
there
paying
you
attention.
go. Yeah. So again, I'm being a little tongue in cheek and sarcasm here, Chip, but who knows? It was probably right in the dead of Thanksgiving holiday when, they knew their department was less than optimally staffed, when a lot of people were on vacation, right? Don't think that, as Corey was saying, a sophisticated threat actor, or arguably one of the most sophisticated threat actors. I mean, heck, this is the SolarWinds compromise, is going to get in, but they're going to do it on their terms, and they're going to do it at optimal times. So that's again, one thing. If you're going to, these are great story conversations with prospects and customers around, talk to me about, what happens around a holiday in your company. What do you guys do? Knowing, you're right, if it's a co-managed environment, how do you guys handle that? Knowing you guys are going to be down a half of your team, right? Here's what happened to arguably an organization with the largest security budget on the planet, right? So, anyway, I find that date very telling.
Yeah, I agree. Look, hackers
Yeah.
are smart. They're going to look for, any attacker tries to attack when your defenses are down. Doesn't matter if it's cyber or, a guy that's going to come mug you on the street. The idea is to get you when you're not paying the closest attention.
Yeah.
I ran into this recently with one of our partners who saw the password spray coming in through BAV2 ROPC. If you see it's through BAV2 ROPC, it means they're using basic authentication through an application, because most password sprays, you don't have people actively on there typing passwords and guessing. It's all automated. They have to use. I haven't found that there's any modern authentication password spray automation that can happen. I'm sure it'll come out. I haven't learned that there's any yet. But that's what they're using. And unfortunately, Microsoft, I used to direct people to Microsoft's direct link that says of how to create authentication profiles to completely disable basic authentication or legacy authentication, whatever you want to call it. It's down. It's gone now. Now, the only thing you will find direct from Microsoft is to use conditional access, which is that secondary authentication, which doesn't stop me from brute forcing your username and password. Once I have that username and password, now I can pivot in different directions to try to get past what you currently have set up for conditional access. And it's frustrating that they completely took it down. Luckily, I found some old blogs that highlighted it and got it over to the partner and said, hey, you should heavily consider this. Once we did this, our password spray stopped by 99%, right? So it makes me wonder, again, they're using the term legacy. Maybe they had some vulnerable systems that they didn't disable these types of things that they're recommending everybody else to do.
Well, forcing everybody else to do. Remember, they shut off legacy off on their own last year. Was it 2020, fall of 2022?
Except for SMTP off, I believe, except for the most important piece.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna, I want to get into the Google piece, Chip, but before I do here, I just wanted to show, because we try to do some education about different things, and I don't think we've talked about MITRE ATT&CK. Corey, again, feel free to chime in here. Just if you guys are interested in trying to understand, do mitre.org, mitre.org. It's a wealth of information, and it's going to lead into the second part of our conversation here. But you can look up through MITRE ATT&CK, the top threat actors, and then the tactics they use, and everything is, as you see there, MITRE gives it a kind of a cataloging, if you will, of how they refer to that threat actor, and then, you know, with the credential, the techniques they use. And Chip, we're going to be talking about, you know, OAuth in a moment, misuse and nefarious ways of OAuth. But it's again, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of MITRE and how it's used, etc. So again, it's MITRE. If you just put in the MITRE attack framework, ATT and sign CK, it's a phenomenal resource. And then as I lead into the next piece, Chip, this is like, again, you talk about, you know, threat actors smart and or lazy, or however you want to coin them. But, you know, if you look at, you know, OAuth attacks, you know, the APT29, not only did they compromise SolarWinds, but they also used it in that compromised. So the OAuth attacks are not something that are new or haven't been tried and true. They are very useful and often more difficult to detect. Thoughts on that, Bud?
Yeah, I mean, we focus so much on the Microsoft side of this, and I know when we do webinars, we demonstrate an OAuth token harvest attack using the tools that are provided now free of charge. It's not even something you have to pay for anymore. The phishing as a service tools that are out there that are aimed at Microsoft. But, you know, as you and I were discussing, I think it's now a couple of weeks ago, Andrew, that we were discussing this Google hack. This problem is an underlying functional problem of every single SaaS application out there, because they all use access tokens that are stored in a browser or that are passed through the browser session and can be hijacked in literally the same way. So the fact that we focus so much on Microsoft on it, I just want to make sure that, you know, our partners, and as they're educating their customers, this applies to anything. Salesforce, NetSuite, obviously Google Workspace. It doesn't matter if a hacker decides that the value of an account for a specific person, you know, they're gonna phish that individual, and they can just as quickly and easily construct a false login, a false OAuth website that mimics the behavior of any SaaS product as they can of Microsoft. And we came across, you know, you and I were bouncing around this article that pointed this out specifically to Google, that there's been an uptick in Google Workspace with the same TTP.
Yeah, and so I think this is really, Andy, I do see your hand. I think this is the part, and we're going to probably use the majority of today to kind of talk about this, and potentially, you know, Chip, I'm going to posture some thoughts as I asked early on about inventories and what can be pulled from these different tools via SaaS alerts. But, you know, inventory in itself is challenging, right? Let's just make that statement. You know, number one, most organizations struggle with inventory. Now, layer in the fact that we want ease of use and we want to, enhance productivity. Well, whether it's Google Play Store or the Microsoft Store, they make that marketplace very easy on purpose, right? They want to allow for ease of use, ease of consumption. I haven't checked into Microsoft's, Chip, but in terms of, Google's, but in terms of Microsoft, all you have to do to be verified on their store is to have a corporation. So you could open up Chip's lollipop stand tomorrow, put in a application that integrates with Microsoft, and it's approved. Microsoft doesn't do any code scanning, code review, or anything.
Yep.
And this is the issue, that whether it's integrating to M365 or Google's browser, we've so begun to quote unquote trust, because it's in a store with big names, that it integrates with my tool. And this is what this one I'll give everybody this great podcast to listen to. But the user behavior is click, click. Oh, I need this camera needs access to, your email or your photos or whatever, right? And we've just gotten so used to go, sure, 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 sure. And Chip, what are we actually doing when we go, sure, 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 go ahead, with these tools?
Yeah, I mean, we're providing authorization at the either user or admin level, depending upon the scope that's being requested, and away you go. And whoever reads, the fine print on the terms of use and the other components that are there. I just want to make sure, Andrew, because you're using shorthand when you say inventory. What we're talking about is, I think, what the community of MSPs and their customers generally thinks of as shadow IT, right? It's the end users installing their own plugins, subscribing to apps because they can easily in the App Store. Google's an interesting case of this because Google actually is a lot more rigorous than Microsoft in evaluating vendors who are writing applications that are requesting scope access to Google. We go through that annually with them. They turn around and do they actually do a code scan, and they require looking at our SOC 2 certifications and our processes, and they look very closely at the scopes that we ask for, and they make us send them videos of exactly how the scopes that are asking for when you connect SaaS Alerts to a Google workspace environment, exactly how that functions. So they do quite a bit more than Microsoft does, believe it or not, in trying to vet the vendors that are creating plugins and that are looking for scopes for Google Workspace. Now, on the flip side, on the Gmail side, almost anybody can jump and throw in anything they want and create a plugin and go do their thing. They don't have the same kind of vetting there. So, but that's a free product, right? So I think that's the way they look at it. If people are paying for Google Workspace, they do vet pretty hard on the vendors who are producing products there.
Yeah, well, why I wanted to come back to this inventory piece, Chip, is I think there's a huge opportunity for SaaS Alerts in this area, right? I don't want to disrupt your product roadmap, but if it wasn't a mountain of work, and you could say as an MSP, look, here's our accepted plugins that we know are trusted, we know are good. And you could say to a customer, hey, look, we just saw these plugins in your from your employees. I just want you to be aware. Do you guys want us to, again, do you want us to investigate these? Are you okay? We're concerned because these are not on your list, right? So it's those types of things that I think open up, again, when we open up Pandora's box through OAuth, which again, we're seeing, right? We're seeing more and more via that way.
Yep. Yeah, we do already catalog or capture an event every time OAuth is used. Initially, the first time it's used to connect to an application, and then that actually is by default, I believe, a medium level event. It's a medium level alert. And then every subsequent use is also cataloged by SaaS Alerts. Now, you're actually suggesting, and I think it's a good one, and I can see Andy Rose, I'm going to jump up and down and say, oh yeah, give us that we create a report in our reports module that says, okay, you want to know every single product that someone in your organization, in your client organization, has used OAuth to connect to and provide authorization grant. We could create that report. We definitely have the data. Our partners today could run that report for themselves using our analyze module and just create it on the fly, but we could definitely create something that's dressed up and has nice graphs in it, much more presentable for the end customer so that they can have a look at it.
It'd be interesting. I'd love to hear from the partners here on that, Chip, because I think, when you go into, especially onboarding, or even in a prospecting call, and you talk to them about, but I'm just curious, do you let your end users, when it comes to things like, Outlook or Chrome, can they install a plugin? And they probably look at you and go, yeah. okay, do you care what it is? You know, if it's good, bad, if it's actually something approved. And then you can get into the whole conversation around, start to dig deeper into, well, let's talk about other things in your organization. And if you don't have a policy around that, do you have a policy around this? Do you have a policy around this? So I think it's just, and then, as you were saying, Andy will be excited. Hey, look, this is how, right? Good selling, right? You're showing deltas. Like this is why we charge what we do, because this is where a lot of nefarious stuff comes in and disrupts businesses, right? Impacts your revenue because these things happen. So we monitor this stuff very closely. So Andy, you have a comment?
I do, and again, building on Unify is the concept here. For office hours, wouldn't it be great to have the MSP partners the RMM partners you have come in and say, hey, we want to identify OAuth tokens and to purge them if necessary at the end of each session. This would be an example of SaaS Alerts helping the endpoint management for cloud security, and not just having it just be cloud, but then have potentially a way to feed that information right back to SaaS Alerts. I'm suggesting greater integration with Unify and also with the RMM partners to help us better use their tools for cloud security.
We'd definitely have to dig into that one with Adam. I mean, I go straight to what you're actually asking us to do would be to use the RMM as a mechanism to go in and edit the HQ user registry hive, and modify quote unquote unauthorized tokens that were installed. So that's an interesting.
I'm trying to say that you have insight as to what's in the cloud, and how to execute this is through the RMM. And I believe that there's a communication that could take place between the two, as proper implementation could be tremendously more advantageous.
Yeah, it's possible. As Andrew was going through his sort of description of what's going on here, and I talk about us creating a report to help you guys, it made me think about our own processes as a business. And it's something that I take for granted because we've gotten to a size, we've been at a size for a long time, that we have a full-time VP level compliance officer. And that's been there. He's been with us actually since the very start. We started growing the company with that role, knowing that as a software company selling security, we would have extra risk, if you will. At any rate, but one of his jobs is something that you guys could actually take on, maybe as another service for your customers. But one of his roles is every month, actually I think it looks at it every week, but every month he's required to report on any new tools that have been granted access through OAuth in our corporate directory environment and product environment, communications product environment. And we use Google. I don't think that's much of a secret. We obviously use both, but our day-to-day stuff for SaaS Alerts corporate is Google Workspace. And then he goes out and challenges everyone in our team who has signed up for a new product. We review whether or not it should be authorized and either booted or not. So it's a regular part of the process in a company of our size. And it's probably something that could be offered by MSPs to their customers through the data that SaaS Alerts does present. Yeah, so Chad, I just saw your piece come up. We do the review after the fact. And in our case, we're not quite as concerned about the hacking side of it because Google is so strict about how they evaluate vendors. But we just want to know what our concern is, the data side. And the way our Google Workspace is constructed, an end user can't give authorization for a plugin application that will allow data reads and allow data harvesting directly. So those settings are really super granular if you're familiar with Google Workspace and how you can set it up. Exactly.
Stuff. Yeah, and then Chip, I just wanted to share this, and I'll put this in the I'll put this episode in
In the chat.
yeah, it's this podcast is I'm going to try and get this guy on the cyber call. This guy's fantastic. But he goes through and lays out in very easy terms about the dangers of OAuth and how it's used in attacks. And you walk away going, wow, I really have a good understanding of this, and in a mechanism where you could actually go, I think, easily communicate it to your customers as far as the disruption it would cause to revenue in their business if these type of disruptions occur. So really good stuff. Let me get that for everybody. Hold 1 second.
I think you have the URL right there, don't you?
Yeah, I just gotta put it in chat. Okay, there we go. All right. But I'm curious from folks like on the interest, would you use a report like that about, level setting and onboarding, or discussing, what is allowed as far as plugins? Because I gather, and you're always so thoughtful in your comments. Like, do you think a lot of companies even think about, and customers even think about, what they'll allow integrating with Outlook or allow integrating with Chrome?
I think it's a little too advanced for the small business market that I talk to. I think they struggle with just basic, what applications are allowed, what are their people doing on the web? They don't even know that. And then going one step further and I think it's really important stuff. It's not the first thing that my target audience needs to address. But I definitely
Yeah.
think there's a very big use there. It's just too advanced, I think, for the true small business community for now. It is, but very, very important. It's just it's such a mess out there anyway.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily say lead with it. I was more thinking from onboarding. Like, is that part of something you would consider talking about in onboarding? Like, hey, does everything get allowed? You tell me, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client.
It's I was definitely listening, and I think it is something we need to be worried about, because whenever we bring on somebody new, we may take on a lot of risk that we don't know about. So I agree, it's very important. So yeah, you got me thinking about it for sure.
Yeah, the inheriting onboarding risk.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a plug for Write a Boom. That's a big thematic we have this year, secure onboarding, because, I was talking to actually a company yesterday that built a security company specifically to focus on hedge funds. I'm sorry, not hedge funds, PE firms.
Mhm.
Sorry, PE firms. I found this interesting, that PE firms are now, obviously financial due diligence and auditing has always been a table stakes for them. But now, what type of risk could they be investing in without proper security due diligence ahead of time? Like, are there threat actors, and what could be, what might have been exfiltrated, right? You're investing in a company. Let's just say you're going to put in $40 million into a company that's got intellectual property. And, historically, they wouldn't have done due diligence on, is there a dormant threat actor? Is there an active threat actor? Has anything ever been exfilled in this organization? So it's interesting where things are shifting, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, at that financial level, absolutely. There's risk that needs to be evaluated, enumerated, and it's just as big of a risk of any physical disaster that could happen. So yeah, interesting territory.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I know we're coming up here on the end. Any thoughts or comments from everybody on things you might want to see in any upcoming stuff that we may not have covered yet? That's We'll obviously Chip bring stuff as always, product updates, marketing updates in the news like we did today, but always like to get your thoughts on. So tailored down to SMB risk assessment. So Rob, can you enumerate or help understand what your comments are there? Tailored down to SMB risk assessment sales process. If you have microphone.
Sorry about that. I was just agreeing with what you were saying with the
Yeah, Rob, you made a
with
comment.
plugging those holes of data and everything.
So more just
Did you hear me?
more of a comment.
Oh yeah, no, I was just agreeing with you that I could see this fit in the SMB segment. It just maybe needs to be scaled back a little bit and then identified like where those real risks are. So there's a high value to it. Like say, hey, this is where your data is being stored. This is where people are good to get it. This is something we need to talk about. So it could be on the sales end. It could be a part of a real formal risk assessment, which is where probably the highest value is. And then obviously on onboarding, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob's talking about the whole OAuth piece, Andrew.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
And Chip, especially if an organization this day is completely SaaS, I would think this is even that much more important because you are giving a lot of times authorization into things. Let's just say you know the majority of your information's in Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever, and you all of a sudden do some plugin right into a tool that's got access to it. So
yeah,
good. All right. Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm
guys,
copying
not sure
the
if you
comment out
can-
there. So we'll bring that one.
Am I too noisy or can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, Enrique.
Okay, just quick comment going back to those plugins. In our ransomware attack, one of the problems we faced with was, so when a user logged into a SQL server, he loaded his personal Chrome profile, Google Chrome. He logged in and that automatically installed Chrome Remote Desktop on the SQL server. So going back to those little details, those are very, very critical because a lot of these plugins will start automatically or install automatically when you log into your profile. So yeah, I think going back to the question about should this be asked or questioned? Yes, but it's just a bad practice I guess we all have.
Good stuff. All right, we're at the top of the hour. Chip, Michelle, everybody, thank you so much for your comments and input, and Corey, if you're there still. Wishing everybody a fantastic week.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks
guys.
everyone for joining us today.
Talk soon.
Bye, guys.